Hey guys, it's Eddie and today I am back with another movie review for you all. Now today's movie was requested of me a long time ago on Tumblr and I'm so sorry that it's taken so long, but I finally got round to getting my hands on it and finally watching it. And it is of course David Robert Mitchell's 2014 horror flick It Follows, starring, I don't know how to say this name, Maika Monroe, Kia Gilchrist and Daniel Zavato, to name but a few. Now, this film follows a girl called Jay, played by Maika Monroe. I'm just going to call her Maika for now because I'm pathetic at names, I'm so sorry. Jay, who is past a curse after having sex with her boyfriend Hugh. She must pass this curse on, according to what Hugh says, in order to avoid being killed by an entity that constantly follows her every waking moment of the day. But her friends help her try to defeat the entity. Whether this goes successfully, you'll have to watch the film to find out. But Jay must decide whether to pass it on or to face it hands on. Now, I thought that this film was really great because it's one of those films that taps into an everyday fear. No one likes the feeling of being followed. If you hear footsteps behind you on a street, you're more than likely to turn around and have a sort of wary glance over your shoulder. And this film took that feeling, that common feeling that I think we've all felt at some point in our lives, whether the outcome was scary or not, or whether we were just being paranoid. It's taken that feeling and it's amplified it by a million and made it a really, really scary situation. And I think that that was actually a genius idea because it just really plays on your mind. And I think during watching this film, I was really able to put myself in Jay's position, wondering what it would be like, how I could sleep, how I could concentrate on anything in my life if I knew that some monster, some weird, creepy entity was following me every day and night, and it would at some point catch up with me and do God knows what. So yeah, I think the film in that respect was really genius. Now I thought that Monroe in the lead role was great. There were some brilliant moments in the film where, she saw the creature following her. Some of her friends didn't believe her, but her really panicked sobs really ramped up this frightened energy in the film and also made you feel really empathetic towards her. It really helped increase the terror. I thought that she really was able to convey that sort of relentless panic really, really well, and it wasn't too over the top. I mean, of course, there is a tendency in horror films for the actors to go over the top with sort of screaming and crying and being hysterical, but she really didn't. It felt real, and I thought she was great in the lead role. I had no complaints about her, and I think she was, perfect for it. She really conveyed that sense of terror, and I think that's always important when your lead actor can convince you that this situation is real for them, and I think she did that perfectly. There wasn't a moment where I was sort of questioning, her sort of acting ability and saying, I think she's going a little bit far with this, which is, there is a tendency for horror films to do that. So yeah, I thought she did really well, and I thought her supporting cast were also great. They didn't take it too far. They were just very fitting within the film. Now, I must say that the soundtrack in this film was one of my all-time favourite elements of it. This sort of electronic keyboard feel that reminded me of old 80s horror films or 70s horror films like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, those kind of films, but it was sort of mixed with a sort of video game, Sonic the Hedgehog kind of feel. I just thought that it was really, really cool, and it gave the whole film this sort of haunting but really vintage edge that I really, really liked. I mean, I think that this whole film harken back to the past of old 80s slashers and horror flicks. And that's probably why it worked so well, because it gave us a little bit of a taster of, you know, some of the best, some of the most classic films, but it also did something new, which I think is really important, because to just sort of replicate what we have all seen before would just be pointless. But to take those classic elements and place them within a whole new idea, I thought was a fantastic move, and it really made me smile, because I found myself getting those kind of feelings that I get when I watch a really good horror film. I get really creeped out, and I thought that the soundtrack, as I said, was instrumental in helping that. I thought it was really, really cool, but also gave the film a really sort of creepy vibe, and I really liked that. I think this film was a really innovative horror film that really seeped under your skin, and I think obviously the premise, but also the direction made the whole thing incredibly unnerving. The wide shots used to, you know, show, I don't know, the outside of Jay's school from her point of view, made you as an audience sort of in her shoes search for the entity within the frame. You were like, which one is it? Who's following her? Is it that person? Is it that person? Whatever wide shot frame was in use, I found myself looking for the entity at some point in the background, and I thought that that was really cool. It really put you in that sort of position of the people in the film, and I thought that was actually quite ingenious, and it really just helped you like get into the spirit of the film, which is something that I think is quite unusual nowadays. A lot of the times with horror films, with modern horror films especially, I feel quite distanced from whatever is going on in the film. But the fact that, obviously with a really haunting story, but also the fantastic direction from Mitchell, you got this sense that you were equally as paranoid, and you were also trying to point out which one was hunting for Jay, and I thought it was really, really cool. So yeah, it definitely gave me a bit of the creeps. There were some things that I thought weren't perfect in this film. Obviously, it was a great film, I'm not denying that, but I thought that the sort of end face-off scene, I won't tell you guys exactly what happened. I'm trying not to spoil anything. I find this so difficult, but there was a end face-off. Obviously, there always is with a horror film. There's always a face-off with a monster at some point. In a pool, in a swimming arena, and I kind of felt like it was a little bit of an anti-climax. What I mean is that I feel like there were earlier points in the film where I felt a greater sense of anticipation and a greater sense of fear. I thought that the way that it was orchestrated, the sort of choreography of the sort of fight face-off scene was a little bit underwhelming, and it kind of detracted from the sort of scariness of the entity, of the monster, of the situation. That's just a personal feeling. I was just kind of like, is that it? But I thought that this film had great detail. I think its ability to really make you pick out things and look out for things, and also fulfill those things by sort of placing things in the background that you were looking for, and also things such as the identity and the forms that the entity took throughout the film. I thought it was great detail, and I thought that the ambiguous ending, I won't ruin it for anyone, but there's an ambiguous ending, and I thought that that ambiguity was brilliant. I think especially for a film like this, I always love an ambiguous ending, actually. I always like to make my own mind up about what's going to happen in the future for these characters. And so I was quite pleased and quite intrigued by the ending. I always like to feel intrigued by a film. So this film definitely delivered that. And I thought it worked really well because, you know, a film as sort of haunting and sort of mystifying and intriguing as this, to have an ending like that, although you may be left sort of really wanting to know what happened, I thought it was incredibly fitting. And I won't say any more than that on the matter. But yeah, I thought that this film was definitely a great horror flick, especially for now. I think that, you know, it had some great young actors in it. I thought that it had a fantastic premise, you know, really unusual, really different, kind of like the worst STD that you've ever had, that kind of thing. Like a paranormal STD, which I thought was like really cool, really innovative. I thought it had fantastic direction, you know, really sweeping shots that really ramped up the sort of creepy energy, and those wide shots that left you scouring the frame, wondering which of the people in it was this haunting creature. So I really like this film. I think if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it 4 out of 5 stars. To me, it wasn't perfect, but I thought it had a great score. And as I said, great acting and great direction. And I thought it was one of the better horror movies that I've seen recently, amidst all the churned out jump scare flicks that we have all grown to be. Come on, light. We've all grown to be just ridiculously tired of. I think it was really different, and I think that sort of harkening back to the classic slasher flicks of the 70s and 80s really helped it there. So that is my take on It Follows. I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. I'd recommend that film to any budding horror fan like myself. It's definitely worth a try. It's very different and it's very cool. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Remember, you can always request movies for me to review by messaging me on my Tumblr. The link is always in the description, or commenting below. But that is it for now. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!